Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well. And so we see powerful outburst from Comet C2020 F8, Comet Swan. You know, I just can't get by the feeling that there's something about the comets in the time that we're in right now that's super significant.
It does feel really significant. Also, it doesn't, I don't know if it's just me or maybe the coverage of them doesn't feel very solid.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny because all you see is, you know what? I mean, the thing that begins with a C and ends with a D. Unless you want to say it ends with a 9. Either way, and that's all we hear. All we hear. And there's nothing but dissension, and it feels like everybody is being pitted against each other in this world and divided into even smaller little groups. Yet, something, it feels like there's some serious significance coming with these comets, and I just can't shake that feeling.
I can't either. It's just sticking with me, kind of like white on rice.
And also just that I don't think that it's going to end with these comets as well. It feels like there's a lot more coming. As we know, it's an electric universe, right? And there's electromagnetic attraction between things. And, the phrase string of pearls just came to me. I'm not sure, why, but maybe, when you see a string of pearls, it's like one after the other after the other. Maybe there's going to be a series. And then maybe that's because I've, read Mother Shipton's too many times. The dragon 6 times you'll come by. Interesting. Is the dragon, a string of these comets, or are these comets part of the dragon of Mother Shipton? And then, that automatically gets me going to Nostradamus. As a youth, I programmed myself with a couple of things, and one of them was the Bible, tearing it apart, and just going into it, spending like all day Sunday just hand copying the Book of Enoch and things like that, just to put things into memory, Elijah and all these other mostly prophetic ones. I was just obsessed with prophecy as a kid, and it kind of continued, though I ended up branching out and discovering that, prophecy exists in more places than just biblical scripture, way more. Actually, everybody has this. It's a universal thing. And when we're looking at the comets, automatically that brings you to Nostradamus in my mind. Some of the more enigmatic statements and prophecies that we've ever seen. And apparently, he saw this time very, very clearly. And then again, we have to question, is it all predictive programming? And as I said before, he was a court astrologer. He was very, very much a proponent of the Catholic Church, believed in the Catholic Church, and, of course, that has to, draw our attention as well. Anybody that is deep in, with these powers, you get a question. So we see powerful outburst from Comet Swan. So Comet Swan brightened and is brightening. And how does that make you feel?
Well, a big outburst. It makes me wonder if it's artificially driven, maybe.
That's the thing, because I've seen more people just say, straight out, not the powers that be come straight out and say it, but more people are like, how do we know it's not a ship? How do we know it's not a ship? How do we know? We really don't know. That's the bottom line. So astronomers monitoring Comet Swan spotted a powerful outburst from the comet on the 5th. Such outbursts usually indicate fragmentation. Remember Comet Atlas. But scientists are hopeful this could just be a volatile comet, which means it might get very, very bright. Now, this one is coming from below, and so it's pretty wild looking at the trajectory of this. It's approaching the Earth and the Sun. Its closest will be May 13th and 27th, respectively. May 13th to the Earth and 27th to the Sun. And as we know, it's coming from down below. So right now, and if you're down in the southern hemisphere, you'd be able to see it. and it'll be getting more and more visible, hopefully, if everything works out, for us in the northern hemisphere as time goes on. So this week, the comet started turning bright enough to be visible to the naked eye, and many observers in the southern hemisphere were able to see it without the use of binoculars or telescopes. Around the 5th, it appeared to have released a huge blast from the surface, leaving a trail of debris. Make note of that, too. Interesting. We're going to take a look at it. Explosions of gas and dust as it heats up while approaching the sun may have triggered the outburst, which is an indicator it might be breaking apart. However, according to Carl Badams of Naval Research Lab in Washington, D.C., outbursts do not necessarily imply fragmentation, and ground-based images are not yet showing evidence of a breakup, noting that Swan may just be a particularly feisty and volatile comet. Maybe a sign of the times, right? Those two words.
It totally could be a sign of the times, yeah.
So, these are some pictures of it. And blue-green, again. Of course, when we start thinking about blue Kachina as well, and everybody's on the watch out for that. So when you look at this, and this shows its trajectory, it's coming from below. You see here, it's coming from below, going up. And it makes a pretty close call with Mars as it comes. As you see here. So, boosh, it just comes in front of Mars. So I wonder if Mars is going to get quite a bit of impacts from whatever this is trailing. And then we see it goes in front of us as we come and go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, really curious how it moves past Mars so close. I'm worried about Mars.
Well, officially there's nobody there. Officially. Now there may be people there, as we know. If you guys have ever followed Corey Good, David Wolcock, talking about, and others too, Anne-Marie Smith, and other people talking about the secret space program, not just them though. I mean, there's way more insiders that have come out talking about the secret space program. We could go on down the line, Bob Lazar, and we could talk about Stephen Greer, and Stanton Friedman, who UFO researcher as well. We could talk about Phil Schneider, because what you'll get trolls that will say, something negative about one person because it doesn't suit their world view, or they're on the payroll, which many are, as now we know. There's quite a few that are actually on the payroll. So you see here, as it comes around in closest approach to the sun, actually will be farther away from us at that point in time. But I got to wonder if we're going to see anything, if we're going to get anything in this debris field. Very curious. But, there's been so many people that come forward about that. And to me, I just don't know how people could think that we're the only life form out here. I think that is just ludicrous. It's just, how could you possibly believe that? It just doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't ring true to me at all. And when we look at all the evidence from the Nazca lines every culture around the globe talks about people coming from elsewhere and coming here, talks about our star brothers and sisters, every single culture. So I think when you have that mindset, what you're doing is you're actually having the mindset of what the elite want you to have. Because the elite want you to feel isolated. They want you to think we are all that there is. And that's it. That's the mindset that they've sold us, and not the truth at all. So we'll see if more outbursts come from this. And there's, as you see here, this is the best comet seen in years. This is what it's looking like. And there's some more pics over here too. Pretty brilliant. Now, this is curious. Whoa, Comet Atlas just got brighter this week. Wait, I thought it was all breaking up. I thought it was going to be a non-event, but it actually got brighter. And this is Terry Lovejoy, who's cited many comets during his career. And so, you know what? It's brightening again too. So what's going on here?
Right. I mean, what exactly is going on here? Because I thought they said it like disintegrated or it was a nothing burger. And how does this happen? This is a miracle.
Exactly. Exactly. See, that whole thought that we're all that it is, Earth-centric, that Earth is the center of the universe, that's the thought that was given to us by the Catholic Church in order to control us. And in order to control us both in this world and in the next, because you didn't want to tick off the church, because they could excommunicate you. They could send you to hell for eternal torment if you were a believer. So, according to their line of philosophy and and what they had adopted. And that's where this whole, thing has sprung from, really, as far as thinking there's no other life out there. And then slowly things have been getting peeled away. So this is fascinating. And so it gets me thinking about Quatrains 262. And that's the famous Mabus quatrain. And it's the only one that talks about Mabus. And we know it's an anagram. People thought it was Ma Bush. People thought it was Ray Mabus, who was an ambassador, who is still working for the government. Actually works also in the private sector, as so many governmental people do, catch money both ways. And then people thought, it was Obama. There's been a million different thoughts on it. And the quatrain does seem to, we could reflect this into our times pretty easy. Mabus then will soon die. There will come of people and beasts a horrible rout. Then suddenly one will see vengeance, 100, hand, thirst, hunger, when the comet shall run.
Which is really, really curious. This is stuck out in my head for a long, long time, and we might finally be starting to figure it out.
Well, we see that there is a horrible rout going on. There is a horrible plague upon the land. And we hear talk that sounds like it could promote vengeance for it, as some countries are accusing other countries of doing it. And in fact, you have obviously the USA on one side accusing. I saw where they made it illegal to use the term that we've heard refer to what President Trump has referred to the problem as. So in certain communities, I think it was in California, you cannot say it as in a certain term, which I'm avoiding because I don't want to talk about this on this channel really, and have this channel taken away too. But it is relevant, so it's very interesting to see this. So, Mabus is the big thing. Mabus, because we see there is really potentially a horrible rout underway. The possibility of war with the vengeance, and we have two comets running, so it's very curious. And this is talking about Kabbalah, and so different possible permutations, as to what it is. People have viewed him as a third Antichrist. So how about Gematria? How about Gematria for Mabus? Well, this is what the Jewish Gematria comes out with. Lucifer. Light is named. Satanus, March 3rd. U.S. Marine Corps? What? Capitalism? Interesting. In Durham, North Carolina? Well, you can get out of Mabus, USA, and that's hit me before too. And then you have M and B separately. So, what does that stand for? But you have USA in there.
You do, in all of these things, it says when Mabus will soon die. So what is this saying?
Exactly. And we see Catholicism, pet goat. Oh my gosh. Seriously, cult. Angel goddess, Rose Hannah, has risen. There's a lot of interesting words in here, especially the capitalism and Catholicism and Lucifer and Satanus. So how about Gematria for Comet Atlas? Armageddon comes. This is the first thing that comes up. Europe, patriot. Oh, come on, he's God. Okay. Issean codes. Satan himself. Necronomicon. It's kind of curious, is it not?
It is very curious to me, and that's what struck me the most. It says when Mabus will soon die, and then we have all these things.
And then we have Comet Swan in Gematria. The thought already declared, anyone defending Satan is Satan. And then things like the Manhattan Project, aggressiveness. Where's the beef?
Where is the beef?
Oh my gosh. And you are the Holy Spirit. And then hell. This is crazy. Apocalyptic City. Japethian from Orion. Ooh, the Orion group. Very interesting. And now we got a sonic boom reported as daylight fireball explodes over Washington State. We've had a lot of fireballs. I got to wonder, because I was haunted by a dream and vision several times, of which I saw so many lights in the sky. I didn't know if it was an invasion by military forces. I didn't know if it was an invasion by aliens, like UFOs. And I didn't know if it was perhaps just a meteor shower that was on such a huge, scale that, when I saw the lights in the sky, I thought there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. That's what came through my head. And it made the pit of my stomach sink. And I'd seen that several times going back to when I was about 19, very clearly. So got to wonder, we get a lot of these fireballs. Loud and deep sonic boom was reported as well, startled people in the area. Fireball traveled from west to east, was visible from Keyport to Kirkland. And the boom was all over social media as well. Shook houses too. And you could see the object right here. And I'll let you play that, and you could hear the boom come after the object goes by. Very curious, guys. Very curious what's going on around us.
It is super curious, especially that boom thing over Washington.
And then, of course, we have the magnetosphere in decline. We have a magnetic pole reversal underway, grand solar minimum going on. It's just another day.
Yeah, just another day.
And, all this gives us crazy weather. And when you look at, this forecast for May 10th, you see the snow up here. It's Maine. Yeah, it's Maine. It's New Hampshire and Vermont. But, also the potential all the way on down through West Virginia, even down. And it's all about the polar vortex. And when, you have a strong polar vortex, and in normal times we'll have a strong polar vortex typically with our magnetosphere being healthy. But you know what? The magnetosphere is breaking down, as we know, and the North Pole is heading rapidly into Siberia. And so you see this wave effect. And, you'll get areas that are not normally so cold getting these outbreaks. But, as we're going to take a look a little bit later, we're going to see that we're still on course with the mainstream telling us about, climate change, global warming. And even if there was no oil and all the cars were stuck at home, they'd still find a way to blame our consumerism, which, consumerism has to change anyway. Everything has to change. The system is polluting the planet, destroying the planet. We know that. As we see torrential rains claim 16 lives, affect 200,000 across Somalia. And everything is adding to this perfect storm with food. I was watching, somebody sent me one, and we haven't really had a chance to watch too much. We've been working so much on the homestead front, and but it was a American rancher just saying, again, talking about how they're being forced to dump the milk, just dump it, bury crops under, and now they're going to be forced to euthanize cows that could go to market. And whether we're vegan or carnivores or omnivores, it's still the fact that it's a perfect storm against the food system, and just so obvious what's coming next. Floods affect more than 200,000, displace 100,000 people in Ethiopia. And again, this is all part of that prophecy too. And we have a second unprecedented wave of locust invasion expected to hit Pakistan. And not just there, it's also going to be hitting Kenya and Ethiopia for the second time this year. And I see quite a few out in the desert around us too. I mean, not swarms, thankfully, but quite a few of them that are out there. And then a lot of things that were dormant are waking up. Shallow 5.1 quake hits near dormant volcano in Iran, and Iran's a place that's prone to very damaging quakes, very, very damaging quakes. People ran out of the houses. In this case, they were terrified.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's so much going on. It makes you wonder if, gosh, is there some sort of planetary thing moving in or what?
Yeah, there are those that believe in that as well. So, no significant damage reported, but the tremor caused panic among residents, which resulted in 2 deaths and about 33 people injured as well. So you had a 60-year-old man due to a head injury was killed, and a 21-year-old woman due to cardiac arrest, because she was terrified. And we are going to see some ancient volcanoes coming online. And so this is more about that. And, Iran, or in ancient times, Persia, that's an area where we have some very ancient sites of, we got to wonder about the culture that was there. I mean, obviously, Persia was a major power at certain times in the past. And yet we have some sites there that I think that if we were able to fully explore them, it would definitely show that our history is not what we've been taught. Not even close. Because we've been told, and this is a totally different subject, that everything started in the Fertile Crescent, maybe about 5,000 years ago, thereabouts. It's not the case. Not the case. We've seen other sites, Mohenjo-Daro, and there are so many sites up in Cappadocia, for instance, where hundreds of thousands of people could live underground, and they did live underground because they were trying to escape what was going on the surface. And so there's so many cities there that are 10,000 years old, probably way older, and I do think this is, again, part of the bigger, why always this tension with Iran? Because I think there's clues there to our hidden history, that there's certain people that don't want that stuff coming out, because when we realize that our history is just, it's nothing but a story that we've been told, then we could start to wake up in droves and wake up others. So here you see the Osiris Rex. We were talking about that the other day. Osiris King succeeds in sampling rehearsal, taking a step closer to the asteroid Bennu. And so interesting how we're going to be, and we saw President Trump made mention of going and mining the moon, as if all these things are not already going on. Scientists witnessed true violence of Jupiter's ferocious storms in greater detail. It looks pretty spectacular, and with this imaging, it looks a lot like a sun, does it not?
It totally looks like a sun. That's like really cool and awesome.
Very interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. And we've been doing so much research into, the mythology of things, trying to get to the core of things going on. Yeah, the Great Red Spot, there was indications that it had declined by maybe as much as 2/3. It's still way bigger than the Earth. This is a huge storm going on, and it's been going on for centuries. But boy, does that look like a sun with that imaging. And then over here, we see new satellite maps show dire state of ice melt in Antarctica and in Greenland. And so, we have so much conflictory things going on. We have the mainstream telling us everything's melting away, and there's going to be massive sea level rise. Well, we do see more king tide related flooding problems across the globe. We have seen meteor tsunamis. We've seen a lot of weird things that are happening with flooding events. And then we have the grand solar minimum saying the ice levels have never been so high, and they're growing very, very fast. So we are getting conflictory data coming in, as is the case. And again, that just shows we can't trust anything. So here they're talking about satellite images that are showing that things are melting away both in Antarctica and also in Greenland. So these red colors are where it is in retreat. The blue is where it's gaining. Every time we check Arctic sea ice volume, total volume, it's basically been at the lowest point going back to 2003, all for a full solid year, after increasing rapidly 2 years ago. So it's very curious. Time will tell. We know we're being sold a bill of goods, and you could get whiplash following the data that comes out that contradicts other data constantly.
Constantly contradicts. I mean, but that, I believe, is done by design to cause chaos.
Again, they want to be dividing us into camps. And so it's, again, get them arguing. Meanwhile, they're not going to notice while we're pulling the rug out over here.
Exactly. As long as we're distracted, that's the game.
So, guys, thank you so much for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. It's Ko-Fi and Patreon that are really helping us to survive in these times, as the censorship has obviously increased to all new levels. And I know that's just, continually increasing. So thank you guys so much for being part of our family. As always, God bless, stay safe, and namaste.
God bless and namaste.